do that quick intro, I always like to start with an exercise to get to know my audience a little bit more before you get to know me. So I have some slides that I'm sharing with you, and I'm going to ask you to plop in the chat. Yay, this resonates with me, or no, this doesn't resonate with me. And Danielle, I know that you're driving right now, so I understand that you might not participate in the chat. So you can just kind of do this in your head, which is totally fine. So for this first one, I want you to plop in the chat if this resonates with you. This definitely sounds like me. Hey, I've got an idea. Are you somebody that raises your hand and says this quite often? Okay. Yep. Yep. So we got some idea folks here. How about this one? Naturally inclined to offer enthusiastic support. Does it sound like you? Okay, it's a little maybe. Yes, yes, yes. How about you? Has a knack for instinctive judgment. And when you're saying yay, also think about not just something you do, but does this energize you? Judging things, discerning things, does that energize you? Not so much. Okay. How about, are you someone that constantly is asking, couldn't this be better? Couldn't this be better? Is that something you're asking? Okay. Would someone say this about you? Oh, they're off dreaming again, head in the clouds. Is that something you would hear? Not so much. Okay. No, 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 not so much. Yes, that's Matt. I think I know how to make that idea work. I can figure that out. Is that something that's energizing to you, figuring that out? Okay, kind of a mixture. How about thriving on creativity? Is that a yay? Is that energizing? Okay, so a mixture again. Do you love to rally others around an idea, getting people excited and motivated? Yay, nay. Kind of a mixture. Okay. Is this something that people would say about you consistently? You can always count on them to get us going, to get the momentum moving. Can I be a mixture? Yes. There's varying levels. Is this something that you often say? Let me know how I can help. Do you love to cross the finish line? Is that something that's energizing for you? Okay. Again, a few mixtures, some yays, some nays. Okay, last one. Are you focused on execution, getting things done, achieving results? Is that energizing for you? Yay, yay. Okay. So again, kind of a mixture. Based on what you shared with each of those ties to one part of the working genius that I'm going to talk about today. And then these are mine. These are the things that energize me the most. Getting an idea. I love to rally people around an idea. I thrive on creativity, and you can always count on me to get us going. My background is in learning and development, organizational development with healthcare, nonprofit, public sector. I've worked in that space for, I don't know, 12 plus years. In many of those organizations, I led the learning function. And most recently, I have gone off, done my own thing. I'm now a leadership coach and consultant. Working Genius is one of the tools that I use in my practice and I've used with many other organizations. And I've also been part of my local ATD chapter in Colorado, the Rocky Mountain chapter. I've been with that group for almost 5 years, and I am part of the board now too. I'm the president elect. So that is more of the formal side of me, and this is the more informal side of me. My top two values are fun and adventure. I bring it to everything I do in my work and my life. This is my family, very active with my two kiddos out in the mountains of Colorado. We're doing a lot of hiking, climbing mountains, camping, snowboarding, skiing, all the things. That giraffe there, I have giraffes all over my office. I've been collecting them since I was a little kid, and the sticking the tongue out, I try not to take myself too seriously. Lastly, I very much believe in a strengths-based approach. You can see me with my Clifton Strengths mug. That is another assessment tool that I absolutely love. So that's a little bit about me. I would love to know what kind of assessment tools you have done, you've completed, you've used. You can post them in the chat, or we're a small enough group that you can unmute yourself too.
I'm home. I can
Hi,
share.
Danielle. Hi. Yes. Would
Hi.
love to hear.
So Clifton Strengths, emotional intelligence. We do a lot of different things around DISC, Enneagram, those sort of things. So I love anytime we can help people understand a little piece of themselves. Sometimes we use Lencioni 5 behaviors
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you. Emergenetics, Clifton Strengths. Yep. Any other tools that you use? Yep. MBTI, also Working Genius, Clifton Strengths. Clifton Strengths is one of those that I probably see the most in organizations that I've worked with. Gallup's a big company. Enneagram, Strengths, yep, MBTI. Any others? I'm trying to think. I use one called Insights Discovery that I really like. It's similar to DISC. I found that it's a little bit more robust. The profiles are scarily accurate. I have people when they read their profile afterwards ask me if I've been following them for a week. I see you nodding your head, Danielle.
Which one was that?
It's called Insights Discovery. It's I think it's Irish or UK based, but it's pretty awesome. I'd say the only challenge with Insights Discovery is pricing. It's a little bit more expensive than, say, a disc. But I also have found that I like it better than the disc. Oh yeah, there's a few assessment tools out there that use colors too. I think there was one called True Colors or Colors that they used at the state when I worked there. So what's been your experience? Good experience, kind of not so great experience. Have you enjoyed using assessment tools? You can let me know in the chat or you can unmute.
I was one of those people that would always take like the personality quizzes whenever they would
Uh-huh.
pop up. I love
Uh-huh.
taking them and learning more.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
I think it's really helpful with managing people, or if there's a coworker, you can collaborate. Like it's been easier to collaborate because I know what they say, what they value, or the way that their mind works. So it
Yeah.
helps communication.
I agree. I think it builds that emotional intelligence. We build self-awareness and then understanding relationships, situational awareness, understanding the different styles, work preferences. Before I started doing a lot of these assessments many, many years ago, I'd get annoyed, like at my husband or other people, not realizing that their minds work a different way. They make decisions a different way. So I have a deeper appreciation for humans in general, knowing that we have these different onion layers. Like all these assessment tools, they peel back different onion layers, and that's what I have found so fascinating about this. And I also see in the chat, had a great experience, love it. People really appreciate the insight, love learning more about it, how I show up so I can provide grace. That's awesome. I love hearing these experiences. Yeah, Cassandra.
Well, I have one more. My husband actually, he was getting burnt out in his career, and he took Clifton Strengths and changed his career path, and now he's doing
Yeah,
something he loves.
yeah. I would say similar for me, having done it, it has I moved into L&D and really strengthened my work in L&D because of it, which has been pretty awesome. So that's so great to hear positive experiences. Sometimes I don't hear great experiences. I was coaching somebody and I remember he said the facilitator said, "Oh, you're not a D. You're probably not going to survive here." So when we started working together and doing assessments, he had kind of a visceral reaction because he had such a negative experience. So I'm so glad to hear positive stories because I think that there's so much benefit to these tools. Okay, so the Working Genius tool, I was actually introduced to this. This is Patrick Lencioni. And I was introduced to this tool back in 2021. ATD had their first in-person conference after COVID happened, and he was one of the speakers. And at that session, he introduced the Working Genius tool. So it's a relatively new tool, which I think is really great, and also why the price to entry is pretty reasonable. He shared this story of being on a call with a group, and he got off that call and he was so frustrated. He grabbed, one of his partners at the table group and said, "Why am I so frustrated right now? We need to dig into this." So they just started brainstorming. And based on the brainstorming, they came out with this Working Genius model, which is really focused on the different parts of the work process. From the beginning of a project to the end of the project, they came up with 6 different pieces of how we work. And the idea behind this is if we understand what parts of the work process energizes versus frustrate us, we can redistribute work accordingly, be more productive, be more energized, have more joy in our job. And so this picture right here is the 6 different pieces of Working Genius. Another thing I really like about it is there's only 6. I love Clifton Strengths. 34 strengths is a lot, right? It really takes an investment of time and effort to learn about that tool versus my top 2 geniuses and my bottom 2 frustrations. So something I always like to indicate with people is whatever results come out of this, whether you decide to take the tool more formally, it is a ranking, not a rating. And it is not about capability either. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as I go through each of these. So I'm going to walk you through what these each mean. So wonder. Wonder is the beginning of a work process. People that have this genius, they love to speculate and they love to question. They ask questions like, well, why are things the way they are? And is there a better way? So they're really good at spotting the gap in the environment or what kind of problem we have, and they love to just sit and imagine all the possibilities to fix that gap. So they are setting up the conditions for the next genius, which is invention. So invention hears wonder say, couldn't this be better? Or here's a gap we have. And they say, well, we could do this and we could do this and we could do this. So they just love the idea generation. They love coming up with different ways of doing things, different solutions, love solutioning things. They love a blank piece of paper that they can just add ideas. It's probably the genius that is the most easily recognizable. And then invention sets up the next part of the work process, which is, okay, well, we can't do all of these things. Those hundreds of ideas that we just came up with, great, but we need to be able to filter out what's going to work and what isn't. So people that are really energized by discernment, they like evaluating and judging all of those ideas, and they almost have a gut instinct about, this is going to work, this is not going to work. And then that sets up the next stage, which is galvanizing. Okay, so we're going to do these 3 to 5 things that we've discerned. We got to get people excited about wanting to do this. We need to get buy-in. We need to get volunteers that are going to want to do these pieces of the project. So those are the individuals that really love rallying the troops. They like getting things moving. They like the momentum. They're the momentum builders. And then you have people that have geniuses of enablement. Those are the ones that say, well, I want to help. These are the individuals that want to provide that encouraging support. They want to make things happen. They want to volunteer to help for whatever the situation calls for. So those are your individuals that are really going to start doing the work. And then that last piece, that's tenacity. These individuals are really energized by crossing the finish line, closing out a project. Your galvanizing is really good at the momentum in the beginning. Tenacity is really energized by the momentum at the end to make sure we're getting things done. Do y'all see what it spells out, the acronym? Widget. This is like kind of a fun way to remember it. And something that I really like that they emphasize in Working Genius, which I think applies to almost any assessment tool out there, is that understanding this about yourself, understanding things like what our top strengths are, what are the things that energize us, what part of the work process do we really find joy in, and which ones really frustrate us. It allows you to let go of the guilt of not being great at the whole thing, not enjoying the entire part of the work process, and letting go of the judgment of others who might be struggling during certain stages. So, somebody that loves the beginning of the work process, they're really good at identifying the gaps and coming up with ideas. They've got all this energy in the beginning of the project. Towards the end, getting things done, they might struggle with. And it's just because that is more of a draining part of the work process. Doesn't mean they're not capable of it. It just means it's exhausting. It's the same with a lot of the other strengths tools that are out there. Those top strengths, those top preferences we have, they energize us, they bring us joy. And the ones that are towards the bottom of the list doesn't mean we can't do them. They're just exhausting. They're just draining for us. So I'm going to walk you through some different pieces, the kind of ways that this model breaks down a little bit more, but I just want to take a pause to see if there are any questions so far.
I just want to say I was having a really hard time putting the word widget together this evening. I was like, what is a widget? That doesn't make any sense. Thank you for spelling that out.
Yeah. Something else I want to point out with this model too is a lot of the other assessment tools we're familiar with are more personality based. This is 80% productivity based, only 20% personality. Another reason why I think it's a differentiator, and it pairs really nicely with some of the other assessment tools like Clifton Strengths, like DISC or Insights Discovery. Because while we both might like the beginning parts of the project, we bring different communication preferences, styles, we bring different strengths to the table. So it's broken down. The wonder and invention, that's the ideation part of a project or the work process. The middle part, discernment and galvanizing, are part of the activation. And the last part, the enablement and tenacity, are part of implementation. So whatever an individual's results are, it can kind of show you, oh wow, I really enjoy the ideation phase because W and I is the highest for me. Or oh, it sounds like I like a mixture. I really like wonder. I like identifying what the gap is, and then I'm tenacity. I like to cross the finish line. So I'm a little bit of that. But that middle activation part, that's where my true frustrations show up. So it's just another way to be able to look at results to see what your preferences are. Another way this breaks down is there are some geniuses that are more responsive and some that are more disruptive. So the wonder, the discernment, and tenacity, those are considered more responsive. And so what you see with individuals that have those, maybe one or two, as their geniuses, is there's more of a steady, stable energy. They react, it's more of a reaction to what's happening around them. So, for example, wonder is a reaction of the inadequacies. What are the deficits or the opportunities I'm seeing? For what's the second one? Why am I? Sorry, I just lost where I was. For discernment, it's more about responding to the ideas that invention is generating. And then for enablement, they are responding to the galvanizers who are getting everybody excited about this new work process or new work project that we're trying to implement. And then with the others, invention, galvanizing, and tenacity, they are more change agents. So invention is saying, well, let's do something different. Galvanizing is saying we need to change the energy of where our focus is and what we're prioritizing. And for your tenacity, it is we need to change the urgency around getting things done and completing this project. So again, whatever your top two geniuses are, you might be a double responsive or a double disruptor. And the other thing with disruptive geniuses too is it tends to be more of a different levels of energy. So highs and lows. So you'll see more of that than the steady energy of the responsive geniuses. And then the last piece that really lays out this model is when we start at the beginning, the wonder, it's like the 30,000 foot view, or you could also think of it as a funnel. When we're casting a wide net and we're looking at the big picture, and with each of these geniuses, you start to go down in elevation. So that once you're at the tenacity place, you are much closer to ground level. You're much closer to the weeds, or for a filter, you've filtered out significantly. So again, as you're thinking about where you might fall, do I get energized more at the 30,000 foot view? Is it a little bit lower? Do I like the 30,000 foot view and then I want to go straight to getting things done and I'm at the 1,000 foot? It's just another way to dig a little bit deeper into the results. Okay, so I want to do a little self-assessment for you so you can identify what you think might be your top two geniuses. Before I do that, again, I just want to check in to see if there's any questions about anything I've gone over.
Okay, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So it's responsive and disruptive. Can you be one of both?
Yes.
Are you always both? Okay.
No, you could be a double responsive, double disruptor, or have one of each.
Okay.
All depends. Yeah. That's a great question. Something else I'll mention too that I like about this assessment tool is it's very affordable. It is $25 to do the assessment. That's it. And most other tools are much more expensive. I think Clifton Strengths is like 60 if you do the full report. I know Insights is in the $100 range or so. So that's another thing I like. And if you want to get certified in it, at least when I got certified, it was something around 2,000 or 2,500. Again, much more reasonable than say a Gallup Strengths, which is more like $7,000 or $8,000, or even Insights, which I think was more like 4,500. So I like the affordability of this and the accessibility of this, especially for organizations. I don't know. I've worked in L&D that's usually resource strapped. So using a tool that's affordable for people is definitely top of mind. Okay, so I'm going to share some different statements. You can wait till I show the whole thing, but I'm just going to go one by one so you can kind of think through, does this really resonate with me and energize me? So it's less about what do I do every day at work and more about what are those activities that really energize me. If you see a sentence and you're like, sometimes that's probably not a genius for you. And then some of these you might look at right away and say, oh, that's draining. I can do that, but I find it kind of exhausting. So you really want to look for the two statements that are most energizing for you. So the first one, do you find joy from pondering the possibility of greater potential? Do you love creating original, novel ideas, different ways of doing things, really tapping into creative solutions? Are you energized by using your own gut instinct, your own intuition to evaluate and assess ideas? Do you derive energy from rallying the troops, energizing people for forward momentum, inspiring others to move to action? Do you enjoy assisting on projects, encouraging others, really being that supportive person to get things done? Or do you find joy and energy from pushing projects through to the finish, liking to complete task, crossing that finish line? So based on the two that you pick, I just did this in order of the widget. I want you to identify what you think your top two geniuses are. And go ahead and put them in the chat. You can also update your name if you want to, like mine. I put GI, so galvanizing and invention are my top two geniuses. Okay. ET. D, double G. Okay, so we got some mixtures too. This could be a really fun exercise to do with your board too, to even how you delegate activities. This is something I did with my team when I led the learning function at my last organization, and we switched around activities based on that. There was somebody who galvanizing sucked the life out of them. And I'm like, that's not my number one. Give me your galvanizing. That's a gift to me. And wonder and tenacity were their top ones, which are my frustrations. So I was like, let me give you some of my WT work. And it was just a great way to be more collaborative and partner with the team, give up the things that I didn't love. They could give me the things that they didn't love, vice versa. So it's a really great way to be able to redistribute activities. Oh, yeah. Danielle's mentioning the three of us cover all of it. So, based on what you came up with, this is what it would look like to give you kind of a sense of, okay, what do I like, the 30,000 foot view? Do I like the 15,000 foot view? Am I a double disruptor or double responsive? Do I like a mixture of the stages of work, or am I in one space? I'm going to give you a moment to take a look at this. And if anyone has any learnings or insights that you want to share, feel free to unmute yourself or share in the chat. Zora says this makes so much sense. Yeah.
I mean, it's true because sometimes I know that I can get too close to the ground sometimes.
Yeah.
And I have to pull myself back
Yeah.
and remind myself that. And somebody I lean on to do that is Danielle, who's like right at the top of that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So
Yeah, there's this concept called borrowing a genius. So if there's somebody else has a genius that's our frustration, how could we borrow their genius? And then is there a gift of a genius I could give to them?
I just want to say, kudos right back to Zora. I got to speak at ATD this last year because of her tenacity. I was caught up in so many other things. She goes, "So the deadline is today. You applied, right?" And I was like, "No, I don't have time for that." She's like, "Oh, cool. So we're gonna open it up right now. You're gonna go in, and and I was like, "Okay, all right, we're gonna do it." So yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I love being able to see this from everybody else. This is really cool. I'm super, super stoked. I'm glad I made this.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yay. Anyone else, any observations you see about yourself or any other team members? So I want to show you what an individual profile looks like, and I'm also going to share what a team map looks like as well, so you can get a sense of that. So when you're doing an individual profile, this is what it would look like. This is Pat Lencioni's. So you can see everyone that takes the assessment, they're going to show up with 2 top geniuses, 2 working competencies, and 2 frustrations. So your geniuses, these are those 2 parts of the work process that, I just love. I could spend all day in here. It's so energizing. I don't feel drained doing this. And it's a ranking. So invention, you see invention, discernment. Invention's a little bit higher than discernment for Pat. And then your working competencies is like your meh. So a lot of people know Clifton strengths. This would be those things that are in between your top 10 and like your like 10 and 30 or 10 and 25, right? Like the things that, oh yeah, like I can do that. I have capability. But if I do it for too long, it becomes a frustration. It's draining for me. And then your frustrations, these are the things that you're like, oh my gosh, why are we so focused on trying to finish this project? Because tenacity is one of his. Like if Pat's in a session and people keep talking about we should just get this done, it's draining for him. It's frustrating for him. For me, I'm the same way. Tenacity is one of my frustrations, and I just want to start a new thing. Invent, I want to come up with an idea, and then I don't even want to discern it. I want to skip to getting people excited about it. So new idea, get people excited. New idea, get people excited. Who cares? Like if it actually solves a problem, it just sounds fun. So knowing that about myself, I can be much more aware of am I overloading and doing all of the things without really thinking about the gaps they're filling? Right. And am I getting people excited about something without really thinking, how is this going to impact people? Is this going to impact the metrics? So this is, if you took it, this is how it would show up. And there's additional information that's in the packet as well. But I love the look of this and how it all comes together, and knowing frustrations, especially for me, sitting in meetings where I was getting really frustrated, I understood that. It was so different. And I also made space for wonder on my calendar, knowing that that's not great for me. And I was overloading my team. I was like, you know what? I need to spend a little bit of wonder every week. I know it's draining for me. So I'm just going to shut everything down when I do it. I'm going to listen to music or go for a walk, do something that's enjoyable, just so I make sure that I'm not missing it. And then Ashley, is this word disrupt a good thing, or should we be concerned about how this is disrupting productivity? It is a good thing. So both are, well, maybe it's neutral, right? Responsive, disruptive, it's neutral. It's all in how you use it. Because all of the strengths we have, how we show up in these different spaces, we can show up in healthy ways and we can show up in unhealthy ways. But inherently, the word disruptive is not meant to be negative. I am a double disruptive. So I'm disrupting things. The focus is on change, trying to change things up, versus you're responsive, which it's more of like keeping things steady. So you see the balance, keeping things steady, but then not overlooking that we need to change things too. So having a balance of both on a team, not necessarily in a person, but on a team, is what you're striving for. So thanks for asking that. So that's what an individual profile looks like. And I just wanted to share, there's a document I'm going to share with you towards the end as well. It has pairing names. So for the two geniuses that you have, it has a pairing name. For example, enablement and tenacity. This is actually the most popular pairing. And I think, Zora, you had ET, right? Yeah. So that is the most popular pairing. About 15% of people that take the assessment come up with that pairing. And the pairing name for that is the loyal finisher. And then this is the description for it. So it is just like another way for you to validate your results, to say, oh, yeah, actually, that does sound like me. And if I look at my frustrations together, for example, my frustrations are around tenacity and wonder. It says a thorough, practical, and careful contributor. Oh, yeah, that's not me. That's nobody would describe me that way. So it's just another way to validate your top two and your bottom two. Another one that comes up quite often is enablement and galvanizing as a pairing. This is about 9% of people that take this, and it's called the enthusiastic encourager. And then the last one is discernment and enablement. These two come up about 8% of the time when people take this, and it's the insightful collaborator. So I'll drop that document before you all leave so you can look at yours and see what it looks like. So I also want to share what a team map looks like. I think the team map is really cool. It is great for conversation with teams. It's probably my favorite part whenever I do workshops on this. And just to give you kind of a high level, what are some of the challenges that teams can encounter when they're missing individuals in some of these spaces? So wonder, for example, we don't notice the gaps that are around us. We don't notice the opportunities. We're kind of slow to picking up on those. If invention is missing, innovation also might be missing, where we don't have that creativity spark to try or do new things. And so we kind of might be stuck in this cycle of, well, that's the way we've always done it. And then if we're missing discernment, well, we might be coming up with lots of ideas, but we're not really good at funneling out what's a good idea and what's a bad idea. For galvanizing, if we are missing that, then we might be missing the buy-in, the influence that we need to get people to say, hey, I want to help out with this. I want to support this. If we don't have people in the enablement category, it's going to be really hard to get things done. So these are your individuals at the beginning of the implementation process that say, hey, I want to help. I want to do some activities. And then if we're missing tenacity, we might be starting a lot of new projects and then just never finishing them, or not finishing them within the deadline. So those are just some examples of problems that can come. Oh, yep. Ashley's an ET as well. Well, it is the most popular one, so it wouldn't surprise me that you see others. So this is an example of what a team map looks like. This is actually my former team when we first did this ourselves, like back in 2021, 2022 timeframe. So I wanted to give you all a chance to take a look at it and then share with me what you think might have been some challenges with our team and then what might have been some strengths. So you see the six categories. It's separated by responsive geniuses and disruptive geniuses on the right. And then any green, that means it's a top genius for us. Any red, that means it's a top frustration. We don't even really map out the competency piece of this. It's important for future conversations, but not when you're initially showing the team map. All right, so I'll give you a second to take a look and you can share your thoughts. Yes, Danielle.
This is always the funnest part for me, is being able to analyze the data and talk about trends. Yeah, exactly. So Daniela ends up bringing the projects to the end, and everybody else at that point is over it. They don't want to hear about it. She likely gets dumped on. And at the same time, when everybody is in that ideation, the invention phase, she's sitting there like, oh my God, you're generating so much work for me to finish. And so she's probably annoyed, and they're all probably grateful for her, and she just wants to go on a month-long vacation and be left alone.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Great insight. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else you notice? So I'll share with you. Oh, go ahead, Cassandra.
I was gonna say, we did this, the last team at my last role, and there were 9 of us, and it turned out there was only one galvanizer. And so when I left, when they were looking at people to fill the role, everyone was like, we need another galvanizer. Like, it can't all be Ryan. It has to be somebody else.
Yeah. Well, and that's another way that you can apply this too. When you look at this, when we first looked at this, we said, okay, well, we're not short on innovation and creativity and new ideas because almost everybody on the team really enjoyed it. And even Daniela said, it's not a true frustration for me. You know, for the most part, she didn't hate the process. And so one of the things, but then we only have one person in discernment. So we're coming up with all of these ideas. You have one person in discernment, a couple people who are frustrated by that, and a boss who also has double the impact on the team, a boss who's a galvanizer. So I'd get excited because I was in the invention stage with everybody else. We would skip right over discernment and then go straight to let's rally the troops, Sarah. You and me, we're the galvanizers. Let's go out and do it. And so it was really eye-opening for me as the leader to say, oh crap, no wonder the team is overwhelmed. No wonder we have so many options and we're overwhelming our audience because we have so many different learning activities that we keep implementing and kicking off. It's because we love the innovation part. We love trying new things. And I am forgetting that the discernment part is really important. On top of that, we only have one genius in wonder, a person that's really identifying the opportunities and the gaps. So we weren't doing the critical thinking around, is this really solving a problem for us? Is this really filling an opportunity? So for me, it was eye-opening to say, okay, we need to start tapping into Bryce and Kayla more to help us. So we actually would shift who facilitates certain parts of meetings or retreats to ensure that so Bryce, if we're starting with the gap, can you facilitate that part for us? Kayla, can you keep us on track with discernment? So it was assigning roles based on that, which was really helpful. And just as a team, we would laugh at ourselves like, okay, we're going back to invention. We're actually in the enablement stage. We need to, because we always wanted to come back to that. So it was really great for us to have a language around it, to be able to identify it. And when we had a position open on the team, we said, okay, where are we lacking? You know, let's make sure we have some questions that really get at potential geniuses in the discernment, wonder, and tenacity space. right? We would never have the individual take this assessment ahead of time, but we can craft questions to kind of give us an idea of that. So same with board membership. In the future, if you want to do this for your board and then see if there's future openings, identifying, okay, where are potential gaps in that area. And Daniela in the tenacity space too, that's another thing. We just kept starting all of these new things and not closing anything out and putting a lot of pressure on her initially. And so great conversation with her to say, I want to help and I want to support, but also I'm going to burn out if the team keeps pulling on this genius. So that was just a good conversation to have with her and Kayla and Bryce, just so that we weren't overwhelming or burning out those 3 individuals that were the only genius in those categories. Yeah, wonder and discernment is low. So that's what the team map looks like. It sparks great conversation with groups, and really shines a light on, oh, no wonder we have some of these gaps. So knowing this, I know it's kind of a short rundown of the tool, but knowing this, can you think of ways that potentially you could apply this for yourself, for teams, organizations, for even the chapter? If you have ideas, you can unmute yourself, you can post in the chat.
So Jen, I'm super excited about this, and it's perfect timing. So what I didn't get to do when I was in the car, I'm Global Director of Facilitation for Fresenius Medical Care. And
Okay.
we teach all the leadership and professional development skills for 130,000 people around the world.
Oh my gosh, wow.
I'm one of the key people that gets to bring awesome things like this and other tools
Yeah.
into the organization. So I'm literally out on the Working Genius site and would love to learn more about this. This is really cool, and I think it'd be really valuable for an individual, a leader, for a team,
Yeah.
just to get that insight.
And Danielle, if you want to offline at the end, I'll have my contact information. So feel free to reach out to me and I can dig more deeply with you too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that this is more productivity based too. I have found that with some leaders I've worked with, or even teams that tend to be a little bit more analytical focused, so like an engineering team, an IT team that I've done this with, really resonates with them versus an insights tool, which is great, but sometimes that's a harder sell in the beginning. This is like a nice icebreaker assessment tool if you're really trying to build more connection, camaraderie with teams. So I found that they really like that. Oh, and Zora said she started sharing it with her coworker. Really great for your small group. Yeah. And it is very team focused. So it's not necessarily something to focus on in one-to-one coaching. It's more team based with maybe supplemental coaching for the leader. And I'll share just a few other ways. Borrowing a genius, I kind of talked about that concept. So this kind of gets back to letting go of the guilt of, oh, my 2 frustrations are around getting things done and like identifying gaps. Well, that's okay because I have other people I can tap into and borrow their wonder and tenacity genius. So it's kind of letting go of that, tapping into the gifts of other people that you work with in your team. I'd mentioned the shifting of work, redistributing, redelegating work, and also identifying gifts in individuals that maybe you weren't aware of before. That was another thing that Pat Lencioni talked about. There was somebody on the team that was really great at galvanizing, and they didn't have anybody else, and they weren't in position necessarily to do that. So they kind of switched their responsibilities so they could tap into that genius more. It's also been great to spark conversation. I've had people in these sessions who said to me, but wait a minute, my frustrations, that's my job. That's what I do all the time. And then it's like, okay, that's a conversation to have with your leader to see what can be shifted and changed so that you can tap more into your geniuses. Because you're burning out, not necessarily about the amount of work, it's the nature of work. And then meeting facilitation, I'd kind of mentioned having people lead based on their geniuses. So if you're trying to do a project task meeting, have somebody with tenacity lead that session. If you need to invent and brainstorm, have somebody with invention and discernment leading different parts of that. And we would also just call it out in meetings or brainstorming conversations. We'd say, okay, we're going to start with wonder. And then we were done with that. Okay, we're going to do invention. And then we were done with that. We're going to go to discernment. Oh, we're going back to invention. Do we want to spend 5 minutes in invention or do we want to keep moving forward? So it was just great to have that language to keep people on track as well. And that's Working Genius. So this is my LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm also going to plop my email address. If you want to talk in more detail about this. Oh, perfect. And my website is there as well.